Hey everyone, welcome back for another quick tip regarding the SAT and ACT. Today we're going to look at the reading section. Both of these small excerpts have been taken out of the reading section of the SAT, but a lot of this applies to the ACT as well. So let's take a look at the first number 10. We've selected two number 10s incidentally, but on the left-hand side here, it says in line 75, sustain most nearly means. Now, this is a vocab and context question. They're not necessarily asking you what does sustain mean, but what does it mean in line 75? So, I think prolong is the closest to sustain in general. Maybe some of these other words are pretty close too. But let's read the sentence with prolong in it. Still, there were pleasures to prolong me after I had finished my books. Definitely not. We're not prolonging the speaker here. So what I would suggest doing is crossing out the word in question and putting in your own word or your own phrase. Still, there were pleasures to keep me going after I finished my books. Okay, defend is kind of close. Support is very close. Endure does not sound like keep me going. It sounds like it's a different use of the word sustain. And then ratify doesn't sound good as well. And if I had to choose between support and defend, still there were pleasures to defend me? No. Still there were pleasures to support me after I'd finished my books. That's a lot like what we said, keep me going. So that's the best answer. It's the closest to what we're looking for. So cross off the word in question, put your own word in using the context and using what you know, and then look for the best answer, because sustain means something much closer to prolong than support, but in this case, support was the best answer. Okay, so let's take a look at this number 10, which asks in lines 58 to 60, a right is characterized as. Now, I want to look at what some of these answer choices say. We have a central concept of democracy. So much like prolong just jumps off the page as something that means sustain, you might just say, well, that's what a right is. It's a central concept of democracy. And then look at some of these other answers. Probably not attainable without a constitutional amendment. Well, we're talking about the Constitution. Rights have to do with the Constitution. Something powerful groups are reluctant to give up. That's totally true. Something hardly worth having doesn't sound very good. But something that most people are not aware that they have, that's also, there's some things that are true here without even reading about a right. So how do we find the best answer? We're going to go back to the passage. We're going to read around this word right, which is right at the bottom here. You have every right to think that the wolfhound has the ability to bite your head off, but that's just your point of view. Now, the really interesting part is this word characterized. How is the right characterized? Not what does the right mean, but how is it characterized? Well, this whole passage is talking about this idea that we're using group interests, or we're using one specific example to defeat group interests. Namely, this is your example that a 4-year-old could wrestle a wolfhound to the ground, and because that happened one time, no 4-year-old should be afraid of wolfhounds, which is totally absurd. So this idea that you have every right to think that the wolfhound has the ability to bite your head off, how does that characterize the right? Especially if you say, but that's just your point of view. It kind of takes all the power out of having a right. It's saying, sure, you can think that, but it's worthless. It doesn't mean anything to think that. So is it characterized as a central concept of democracy? Not this time it isn't. While a right is a central concept of democracy, that's not how it's characterized in this piece. Probably not attainable without a constitutional amendment? Absolutely not, because this is a right that they say that you have. You have every right to think this, but it doesn't matter. So B's out. Now look, C looked really bad before, but now it looks like it makes sense. You have every right to think this wolfhound has the ability to bite your head off. It just doesn't matter that you think that. Well, it's hardly worth having that right. Isn't that so? In this case. Something powerful groups are reluctant to give up? No, they'll let you have your opinion. You can think whatever you want. That's just your opinion. It doesn't matter what you think, is what this little quote is saying. Certainly not what we think. Obviously, we love that you have your opinions, and we want to hear about your opinions about the SAT or otherwise. You can talk to us about whatever you want. Talk to us about your favorite ice cream flavor. We'd love to hear about it. Something that most people are not aware that they have, again, that's kind of off base. So the best answer here is C. Even though that seemed like an answer that was totally incorrect at first. It seemed like the worst answer. But Because we're not being asked what is a right, we're asking how is it characterized within this passage. Well, it was characterized as something that's kind of worthless. It's hardly worth having. So you can see how nuanced these reading questions are. They can be very, very, very nuanced. Sustain means prolong more than it means support, but support's the best answer. A right is a lot of these other things more than it is answer choice C, but it is characterized as something hardly worth having. So if you want to ace the reading section, you have to be really, really careful, and you also probably need a really great tutor. So get in touch and we'd be happy to help. Take care.